so we can now see, whoa, youths, reality of our true self. There can be no other savior than yourself. Oh, youths, yeah.
Yes, greetings, one and all. Yeah, my soul brothers and sisters, on this evening of wet weather, rain a pour, breeze a blow, drunk body out the door, them type of reasons why you want to be inside, keep yourself warm and dry. But the water good still, because spring will be coming in a couple months. Should I say couple months? But you see, everything changes. So, greetings again upon Cosmic Roots Show with your brother Siayome, aka Cosmic All Mystic, also aka Ab Ankh Rem. And there are those who know me as Karuma, which is part of my name. So, greetings. You are tuned in to Bless Radio 1. You can tune in live on YouTube right now. And you can also tune in via the internet, which is www.blessradio.org. The telephone number to call in, if you feel anything tickle you and activate you and you like to share, is 079-443-1366. That is 079-443-1366. All right. So, yeah, it's a bit of a late start. Look at it, almost an hour. But then again, everything's in its own divine timing. So what we I say is late, maybe just right on time. And, yeah, there is that, well, there is the reality behind all this thing about time, that time don't really exist. It's an illusion. And that is true. But you have a paradox with it too, which is time's an illusion until you got something to do and somewhere to be. You know what I'm saying? And somewhere to go. So within time, space, and matter, time has its place. But beyond that, time doesn't really exist. Because what is time? If you look at the word spelt backwards, it spells emit. And emit is based on what is being sent out, a frequency, a vibrational frequency. Which one is emitting, you see? So, you know when they say time flies when you're having fun? Well, there's truth in that, because time seems to be going so fast because the emissions, the vibrational frequencies are speeding up, or have speeded up, and they're speeding up even more. So, based upon the rate of emission of the vibrational frequencies, time could either appear to speed up or slow down. But anyway, time is not necessarily what I want to discuss this evening, or talk about, or transmit, because there's a lot of things that just seem to continually be happening. So, yeah, what I'm going to do is continue with what is spiritual awakening part 2. Because last Tuesday, I was quite surprised by Brother Jammers entering the show and presenting me with an award I did not really expect to be receiving, and so forth, and it was a pleasant surprise. And there was some audio problem with the live call-in. You know, Brother Gita was on. He was talking on aspect of what the show was about last Tuesday, which was spiritual. What is spiritual awakening? And because we couldn't hear him very clearly, it kind of you kind of missed out from what he was trying to say, what he was trying to convey, I should say. And Therefore, it made it difficult to comprehend what he was saying. But we will have Brother Gita back, and for him to articulate and convey his version, his view of this big puzzle we're putting together, because all our views coming from a centered place, that is vital, because all pieces to the puzzle have to come together in their correct context, in their correct relating with one another, to one another, in order to build the bigger picture, you see. And it's the bigger picture that you want to be focusing upon, because, yeah, all pieces only make sense when you can view them in the greater context that they fit within. So, yes. So here I am, and I'm going to be going into what is spiritual awakening part 2. And I'm just going to hit the ground running as, you know, as it goes, cause yeah, it is about that time to align and flow. All right, I'm just looking on my phone, some notes here and so forth. But yes. So, one and all, I was talking about what is spiritual awakening, because I feel it's a vital thing to understand, because whether you like it or not, there's a lot of changes going on all over the place on the planet, and in different countries, different regions, different areas, and yeah, it's causing, as you can see, there's various disturbances in different places, but it all is relating to the same thing. That structure on how things have been operating needs to change. And, well, change is inevitable. It's just how this change is going to take place. That's the thing. So, when I was talking last Tuesday about what is spiritual awakening, you know, there's a lot of things going on which is affecting the way many people's lives, or many people's perception of what they call life, and how they go about living that perception of life. Okay, and also, you know, changes on various different levels. Various people having close ones to them make the transition into another realm of reality, we could say, which they call dimensions. We have various reactionary and basically, you know, response, I should say, from the people towards the way, the structure of how things have been governed by those who, I don't even want to say authorities, but have taken that position to do so. Well, you got generations that no longer want to or can put up with this type of thing, you know? And everybody seems to be confused and don't know what to do, even if they're even in a position of so-called authority to do or make certain things or implement certain things. Now, we got stuff going on over here in the parliament. We got a whole heap of things where people can agree on stuff that they're supposed to be able to agree on the surface level. But obviously harmony, which agreement actually also relates to. Agreeing means you are in harmony or accord with one another, or with that which you are agreeing to. to align with, to resonate with. You see, these are words that can be synonymous for the same thing. But again, it's the context in how things are being used. Okay? So, you got a parliament going on. And just to inform, some of you may know what parliament actually means or what else is given the term parliament. What it is parliament would be a name given for a group of owls. And owls are nocturnal creatures, and those huge big eyes and big round face has some serious keen night vision. And there are creature that preys upon, the creatures that are running on the ground, okay? And they'll always also be used as symbols for the watchers, those who are watching, okay? And so it's interesting, you know, you have words used which we would associate with one thing and not realize that it's also associated with something else. In fact, you know, it gives you clues on the mindset, you know, behind that which words are being used to represent themselves, so to speak. So yeah, you got a parliament. That's a group of owls, yo. Just like school is also referred to as a group of fish, a school of fish. So basically I'm saying, don't look at something just one-dimensionally. Yeah, there is many things going on, or many realms of existence, or timelines, so to speak, existing simultaneously at the same time. Just like you exist in the spiritual, mental, and emotional, and physical planes at the same time. You see? So, what is spiritual awakening? You see, it's important to discuss this or talk about it. And if anybody would like to share their views, please feel happy to do so. But you know, this is something that's been going on for a long time. It's been going on for decades, a gradual build. You know, there's been generations before my generation, those who came in, say, like 1945, 1950s, and they were the counterculture that were actually those who rose to certain prominence throughout the musical and, you know, through our, now it's become part of our national consciousness. They were coming in to prepare for the Aquarian age, which we are moving into now. And back then you would be talking about the 20th century. And we're now in the 21st century. You know, it sounds like a big, long time when you say things like that, you know, 20th century. You know, we're now in the 21st century. You know, prior to that, you were in the 19th century. You know what I mean? And that would be very different type of world we were living in then. Differently to the world we were living in the 20th century, and definitely very different to the way the world is now in the 21st century. And these are just kind of, you know, when you use words again, it's also a reflection of the culture we're in, the predominant culture that has been running the show in various different aeons of time, okay? And we're talking about, in this respect, a Western culture, where it has affected the way many of us perceive reality and ourselves, and what we consider to be real, important, or not important. And it's had a big effect, not only on those who it's been imposed upon, but on those who have imposed it, because everything's getting very crazy, even in their own house. Can't agree on various things, because you're dealing with a different time now where those old ways of looking at stuff and old ways to so-called solve some problem, well, that ain't going to be so cut and dry as it may have been before. And there's big reasons behind this, but a lot of people just look at stuff from what they see with their fleshy eyes, hear with their fleshy ears, and basically try to perceive with the physical senses alone. But we're in a different, when we talk about being in a different time, we're really meaning that we're in a different formulation of energy. And energy always precedes the actualizing or the manifestation of that which is to come. You feel the energy of it first. Those who sensitive enough to pick up through their inner senses, through intuition, which is different to instinct, the change in the air, make way for a new day. And that was being perceived decades before now. So, speaking this way to explain that we're dealing with a different wave of energy now, which is related to a different age that is coming in. Those of you would know it's called the Aquarian age. Therefore, the age we had before that is called the Piscean age. I know a lot of people do not, when I say I know a lot of people do not, I should say I accept that not everybody would find astrology their cup of tea, or to think that it matters or it plays any profound role in how things unfold. But you can drive a car and not know much about it, as long as it works and it does for you what you want it to do, until a problem happens with the car. And then you realize how important it is to actually know something more about how it's being put together and how it operates, which at the time, when you're just interested in driving it, it don't seem to matter much. It's not that important until it becomes important, because you need to get certain things corrected, fixed, repaired, replaced, whatever, in order for it to run smoothly again, to serve you as it had done before you were interested or thought that it was important, to know the hows and why certain things function the way they do, or operate the way they do, or happen the way they do. And when you don't realize what's going on behind the scenes, things just seem to happen randomly without any rhyme or reason. And remaining in that perspective or holding on to that perception, it can keep you very confused. You know what I mean? And you may end up thinking, yeah, you can fix something by banging it with a hammer, when it's more intricate than that. And you make things worse because you don't have any inner standing. It's just surface dwelling stuff, you see? So I'm saying that to lay up, there's cause and effect behind this whole universe you're living in. Basically everything is based on causation. There's a cause behind effect. How the universe came into being, it was through a cause, not through some random event. Even if you're going to say a Big Bang, so what caused the Big Bang? And was the Big Bang intelligently actually done? You don't hear folks talk on that level. These scientists and stuff, they want to just tell you, well, it was a Big Bang, and that's supposed to answer the whole question on how the universe came to be. And it's evolution, and that's supposed to answer random, by the way, evolution, random chance mutations, and that's how you guys come, we all came to be. Yeah, well, that's what happens when we're dealing with limited perception based upon the mind and those who basically want to keep us blind, So we're dealing with a time now where the era is changing. The energy is changing. And there's nothing that can stop it. So I said that we are moving into a new age called the Aquarian age. And we've therefore come out of an age that was previous, which was called the Piscean age. Now, at this point, let me explain something, that each age of time, which is more of a grander time than the 24-hour or 12-hour clock you have become used to, you know, that is, we're dealing with a cosmic time here. Natural, nature, time, and cosmic time, okay? Which is universal time, okay? Just like you're looking within the making of a watch, you got all these different type of cogwheels. Not just one cogwheel. You got large ones, small ones, all different size, and they all are simultaneously, interrelatedly connected and operating simultaneously, yeah? So each age of a sign is 2,120 years. So we're moving out of a 2,000-year plus cycle, an age, which was called the Piscean age. And that time, that age, you're dealing with the time that has been it has been reported about Christ, Yeshua, you know, what names you want to say, what title you want to use, but of a consciousness that was personified during that time, that was trying to bring people out of, trying to raise the consciousness for people to realize the true relationship and true connection they had with the source of being within a time of great deception, where people were, where it was a time of faith and belief and not knowing, you know, and the consciousness that personified at that time came at that time in order to wake people out of this deception. But because it was that age, Piscean age, the right time hadn't come yet for there to be more of a collective, if you want to use that term, more of a mass kind of awakening to out of that deception. So we're coming out of the time of faith and belief, which was a teaching about you being separate from the source of your being, and that to serve the source of your being, you have to look outside of yourself. You were separate from it, and service was all based on suffering, you know, punishment and reward based upon your performance. There's something on high that will determine whether you qualify or not to be rewarded. And for 2,000 years, you got to understand that this has been a really heavy jolt on the psyche. It's been a very, very heavy jolt on the mind. And through that era, an age of deception and lies and separation, which breeds fear, to grow within that gap, we are experiencing that old energy beginning to become dissolved as the new energy leading in the new era. It's funny how the time, when we talk about era, it even seems like a mistake, isn't it? But that's also a word used to denote a period of time, an era, E-R-A, not E-double-R-O-R, you know? So, you know, it's interesting. We have to understand how these words work as well, because the language you think with, you use, is the language you think with. You use the language you speak is the language you use to think with. So the language you're using to think with is going to be arranging ideas in your mind based upon your comprehensivity or level of comprehensivity of meaning of those words, which is the concept behind those words. which give you their meaning. So, yeah. So we're in a period of an age, I can say. Why they say is the age of Aquarius. Now, the age of Aquarius is about individualization from herd, group, institutionalized thinking and conformity, and a belief in separation from you and your source of being. And the age of deception, okay, where people have been deceived and the truth of themselves have been hidden in order for those who are hiding that truth to control and manipulate your consciousness. Now, you know what I'm saying by now, this ain't really big news. That's quite interesting, because if you did talk this stuff even 50 years ago, would it be like, what? You know? But now you have a lot of this information. People are more receptive to what is considered more spiritual or consciousness expansive discussions or information. Whereas if you talked about spirituality back those times ago, people be believing you're talking about religion, and anything other than religion would have to be works of the devil if you were going to talk about spirits. So there's a very ignorant time, very, very ignorant, okay? But what you're dealing with now is a new age of Aquarius coming in, which the word sound for Aquarius is I know. Whereas the word sound for Pisces is I believe, okay? Now, the symbol of Pisces is the fish. And you see these two fishes connected together in the waters. That symbolizes the age of Pisces. But the symbolic language and meaning of that symbol, the image of the two fishes tied together, was meaning that, one, there's no separation between the individual and the universal, or spirit and matter. This is what the two fishes represented. Hence is why the fish was used as a symbol for Christ consciousness. Because fishes also represent fertility and life. Okay? And their oneness with the environment that they're in, which is the waters, the oceans. Okay? And how consciousness is likened unto the ocean, because it's formless. It's likened unto water. It's formless and boundless. Okay? It's the flowing liquid consciousness that all creations of forms of life emerge within. Okay? And even we, from the physical level, growing as we are gestation period of a fetus, embryo, you know, in the womb of a mother, it's within water all of this is taking place. You see? They even call the seminal fluid in men semen. You know, phonetically, yeah. And semen go out into the big blue sea or the deep blue sea in the ocean to catch fish, to bring back to nourish their people who eat fish. You understand? And all the other aspects that a fish produces, the oil, you know what I mean? Cod liver oil, all this stuff anyway. So there's a lot of language, there's a lot of meaning within a symbol, because the symbol is like a concentrated vault of knowledge, which is about inner knowledge, which directs you back to the source of yourself for you to know who you are. So Pisces with the two fishes represent the connection between the individual and the universal, the relationship between spirit and matter. And in that time, that 2,000 year ago period, is where you had interference on the planet with the consciousness that was deceiving you from your oneness with the source of your being. And this is where churches, buildings external to you, became a mead or a medium or a mode of worship. And when you're going to worship anything, it means that you've already accepted that it is apart from you and above you, separated. You know, God's up in the sky to behold his glory. You first have to die because you're just physical here. You're a mortal being. Spiritual is separate. You have to die to become spiritual. You see that? Well, Pisces was showing you with a symbol that actually spirit and matter is one. They are related. You know, one is the higher vibration of the other. And one is the cause of the other. And the other is the effect of that cause. Yeah. The manifestation. The materialization of spirit. So what you have in here is that during that time you're being taught about to have faith and belief in something that is separate from you, which in originality and in truth it never has been separate from you. But this is when the mind got more massively conditioned to believe in this separation, and fear and murder and bloodshed was used to persuade you to buy into that belief. So you got these external buildings you have to go to in order to say you're in the house of the Lord and to make a connection with what is considered what they call God. Before, you never needed no external building to yourself to be able to commune with the source of your being, because your body was already the temple and the house. Hence why the two sides of your head is called temple. 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 And temple also is related to template. And that when you check out all the buildings that you see around you, the template for the blueprint of the design of any building was originally the template of your own physical body. So you are looking outside of yourself for you see. Everything is trying to mimic you see. Anyway, and before with nature, what they would say in the matriarchal period of time, we knew about natural lore. We intuitively could tune in and intuited our relationship with nature by realizing source was within you. Okay? Well, anyway, you got the mind control used with, instigated with fear and threat, all the mannerisms of stuff. Yeah, which has been keeping people in fear and separation, because the belief in separation is what fosters the fear. And making, it also supports that belief in being imperfect, incomplete, looking outside of yourself for the other half to complete you. This is where all of these beliefs were fostered. And it was about how the mind, your mental state, was conditioned. So we're moving out of that era, that age, that time. All the energy that supported everything that was to take place in that time as it did, that energy is dwindling, and no longer that type of thinking or that state of consciousness can be supported anymore. As we move into the new energy called the Aquarian age, where it's I know. It's time to know. Yeah? Which is very different to believing. But you see, as that age is leaving, there is going to be many minds that don't want to let go of the old energy and the old way, the old structure of things. So when you now come into this new age, new energy, the Aquarian age, which is about knowing. I know. You see, that's its motto. That's the Aquarian motto. Every sign in the astrology has its own phrase that represents its energy. You see? So Aquarius is I know. And, I know what is to know thyself. That's what I know is. And if you look in the way the spelling of know, it's K-N-O-W. Take the K off. It's about now. Okay? Okay? So you got now. And the K, symbolic of the key. To unlock the now, right now, within you, to know now. You see? Not in the future. Even though Aquarius is very far ahead of its time, because it sees beyond what's taking place in any moment, because it is connecting to more of the universal intelligence rather than man-made concepts. Because Aquarius is also about being free. It's about freedom. And freedom and liberty is the call of now, to be and for your soul to be free from the bondage of being ensnared in believing you are just matter and that spirit is separate from you, and all of this faith and belief in man-made concepts, human mind, human conceptualization of that which they don't know but trying to make up answers to. And because it's about you being separate from source, it then began to make you believe that you cannot have a direct connection to the source of your being in order to be intuitively informed or made aware of knowledge and having a knowing that goes beyond the intellectual mental processing of man, that depends upon data that has to come from outside or dependent upon the five senses. Yeah, your fleshy eyes and your ears and your taste buds and your nose, olfactory nerves, smells and ears, and oh, you gotta touch something. It's gotta touch it with my hands. If it's tangible like that, then yeah, man, now I know it exists. Well, we're moving out of that time, and there are people who are finding it very difficult to make that transition, because as new information comes through now, through the new age that we're dealing with, and I don't mean new age as in new age movement, I just mean we're in a new age. We're moving into a new time of energy and consciousness, a new awareness or a more expanded awareness. Hence, in the reality, there's nothing new under the sun. But, you know, you have cycles of consciousness as well as you have cycles of seasons. As we're in a cycle of a season right now, which is going to change also. So we're dealing with the age of Aquarius, yeah. And this is an air sign which deals with higher mind. You're dealing with divine mind. When you're dealing with Aquarius, you're dealing with a higher consciousness, not that which only looks upon the conditioned ways of believing and wants to be confined to group thoughts, group think. Aquarius is about you finding your individuation to realize your direct relationship with the source of your being, so you can walk and be in your and stand in your own true light, and be true to yourself, the self. Not what you got as a mental concept, which a lot of people identify with as their self, the personal self-image, and the emotional self-identity, you know, formulated when from childhood and so forth, based upon the information you were receiving outside and from yourself, and how that you was interpreting that to kind of shape and mold the perception you then now hold of yourself. These limited perceptions. That is not who we're talking about here. That's not who you are. This is why we're dealing with the information age, and all the holy stuff is outpouring. And if you check out the symbol of Aquarius, it's either a man or a woman that is pouring out from these urns, from these huge vessels, water into the water below. So you're talking about really the waters from above is now being outpoured onto the waters below. So you're talking about higher knowledge here now coming into mix with the water below, you see. And water also symbolizes life and vibrational life currents. As I also said, it represents the liquid flow of consciousness. You see? And Aquarius is a masculine energy because it's an air sign. Air signs and fire signs are masculine because they're active and they move about, and air penetrates everything it can find its way through into. Yeah? Air can't, so you're dealing with a volatile energy, willful in its own self. And you can't control it. You can harness its energy, but you can't control it because it has its own individual, unique expression, which is not going to be, how can you say, limited, you see. But when we're talking about air, dealing with Aquarius, we're talking about etheric air. This is ether. This is etheric light. It's electrical energy. So we're not just talking about just the mediocre air. We're talking about the breeze that blows, about what's, you're looking at or perceiving to do with the air you breathe, okay, in and out at the oxygen level. We're talking about higher air, higher gas, if you want to use it, but it's a higher form of etheric energy. In fact, you're dealing with the substance, the perfect substance, which is called mind. And out of mind, everything was created, but mind never created anything. Mind is the substance that consciousness, intelligence created your body, our body, and everything else out from. Hence why you hear the whole term about higher mind or God mind, or some would use as the Hermetic principles, all is mental, which is not true. In a way it is, but in a way it's not. Because if you think all is mental, you'll be stuck in your mind and think that's all there is. Mental is the beginning of stuff. When, as I said, the substance that consciousness intelligence creates with is what has been called mind. And a lot of people identify with mind and its contents. And this is where we get our problems, because you're identifying with an illusion because you are not the mind. The mind is an instrument being used by the very essence of you, consciousness, intelligence, life itself, you see? And as long as you identify with your mind, you believe you're this mind and body, you remain trapped within your own self-induced illusions. And you hear, and this is where you get a lot of people, considered mad if you're out of your mind. Are you out of your mind? You are crazy. You're out of your goddamn mind, That's what they would say. So, some of what I am saying is, various folks, it's not new as such, you would hear this before. But it does help in clarifying even the things you've heard before. So you can go deeper and get deeper clarity on it. It's just like when you read a book you may have already read before. Next time you go into it, you see more than you did the first time around. You see more between the letters on the page than you did the first couple times. You may have glossed over it, thinking, yeah, man, I know what's in that book. But you see, everything is vibration. Everything is frequency. And you can be tuning into more of a refiner frequency of what you thought you tuned in before and get even a clearer reception till it's crystal clear. You see? And you even get that with radio stations or internet and TV. The channel, the frequency, get a good picture. But it could be better. Hence now you got HD, high definition. And the times before high definition, we were all watching television thinking, yo, man, that picture's crisp. Huh? That's a crisp picture. When it was on analog and all of that. But obviously it wasn't as crisp as we thought. Because now you got liquid screens. and you got high definition, HD, and even other terminologies that they're coming in with now to kind of depict how much clearer than HD an image can be. So therefore, it's the clearer and the more refined the frequency, the more profound, more clear, and more powerful you will be able to receive information, knowledge, because information is energy. Information is energy. You know, you hear about word, sound, power. Well, you're dealing with vibrations that creates the sound that are formulated into words, which then have conveyed the power behind the word based on the vibration and the source state of consciousness that vibration is emerging from. So, you know, that's where you get the whole term, where you coming from. Because some folk can hear something but not really get where one is coming from because they're not on that consciousness station. They're not resonating in themselves on that plane of consciousness to really get where you're coming from. You see? So all of these have these meanings, these terms we use all the time. More time don't realize the real depth of where them terms originated from. You see? So where, as I said, you know, this is What is Spiritual Awakening Part 2, yeah? And you see, as I said, we're coming out of an old age of faith and belief and deception. And we're now coming into the age of I know, which is knowingness and knowing the I within. Knowing that the I within is pure consciousness itself, rather than the I we've been identifying with, you know, for the last 2,000 years as your mind and your body. Now, your body changes and so does the mind. But the I, which is the immutable consciousness of you, your soul, that don't change. It's lived many, many lives. It's lived many, 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 many lives. And a lot of us solely identify with this particular moment, this particular so-called moment in time. And we believe this is all that there is, this mind, this body. When the fact of the matter is that you are more than that. And this is what this era, this time we're moving into, this age of Aquarius, is about you waking up to your essential true self. Is about a waking up to our essential true self. Because the mind entraps you based upon your attachment to what you are identifying with that you hold in your mind. The concept you have of yourself. The personal self-image that if you feel is under attack, you're going to want to fight to protect it. That idea of ourselves, you see, that idea of ourselves, which is ideas, which is conditioning. And many folk are going to find it hard to let go of that conditioning. Because deep in the subconscious or in the unconscious realm of the subconscious, they hold on to these beliefs in their minds of separation from the source of life itself, and don't understand the laws of existence. So we believe things are happening to us rather than from us. So it's fostered a certain belief in victimization and perpetrator. And, you know, it's all about your story, you know. And many people got a victim story, you know. And if you got a real good story to tell, you may melt the hearts of those around you. And then, oh, now they see, you know, they favor you. And now it's all about who's the victim and who's the perpetrator. Now, who you are, as I said, we're dealing with the I within. You may have been familiar with the term all-seeing eye, all-knowing eye, you know? And then you think it's just this eyeball looking at you from the top of some pyramid, which would be symbolized for the eye of providence. And then now it's being used to symbolize the Illuminati, which is now, if you see an eye within a pyramid, you're going to believe, oh my God, it's that group there, that Illuminati, that nefarious group of beings who, yeah, want to set the world on fire, destroy everybody and all of that. So you see symbols get misassociated with what they weren't associated with before. But in the time of deception, those symbols, like the Eye of Providence, got turned into being associated with some other group's agenda. So now you just associate a symbol with something negative when actually it's nothing to do with what you think it is. It's only what's now being associated with. And then if you believe that, you see, this is why. If you hold on and identify with your mind is what gets programmed and filled with content. And many people will hold on to that content because they believe in that content and can't see beyond the content because they cannot see beyond their mind because they're identifying with their mind. And your mind is being conditioned with that content. Whereas the soul, you see, the soul being the immutable, which is unchanging consciousness. That's you. That's the I I'm referring to, the authentic I. Even look at the words AI. Wow. You got artificial, that stands for artificial intelligence, which is the robots and computers and all this. You got it all around you, actually. Artificial intelligence is running stuff already. These computer chips in cars and stuff. You got things you just put certain things in there, information. What do you think your GPS is? That's artificial intelligence. And you depend upon what it's saying to you to get to where you are. So you no longer think with the authentic intelligence now. You're not using your authentic intelligence. And what you stop using starts to go dormant, meaning it starts to go to sleep. And now you're going to be dependent upon the artificial intelligence to get you around a place. You know what I mean? So you always got the authentic and then you got the artificial. So when I'm talking about the soul, I'm talking about your authentic intelligence. Whereas the mind and the body identified with is artificial intelligence. Because it's what's programmed, you see. It's what's programmable. But your soul now, the authentic I, the isness. Soul, as I said, being the immutable consciousness. Meaning unchanging consciousness, yeah. It don't change. It's immutable, unchangeable. Meaning, so it means it's unchanging and it cannot be destroyed and lives from life to life. Your soul lives from life to life. Now you have many folk who being conditioned with this whole belief about spirit being separate from matter, especially in the Western world for the last 2,000 years. It's very hard for people to grasp the nature of soul or the existence of soul because they're trying to grasp this with the intellectual mind. And a lot of people even question if there's a soul at all based upon Western indoctrination. It's like from a Western perspective, soul seems to be something very, very nebulous and hard to hold down. You see how I go? Because they depend upon the five senses. They depend upon the intellect. They depend upon something being tangible. They depend upon something being verified by the fleshy eyeballs, which are basically just energy receptors to interpret the frequencies around you. Yeah. For you to then say, hey, yo, I can see that. But just because you see that, you don't know what that is. It's all going to be interpreted based upon your conditioned mind of what you think about that, which your fleshy eyeballs see, which ain't seeing anything really. Your eyes don't see. It's the information being transmitted through the eyeballs as energy transmitters that gets decoded in your brain. Yep. So really your eyes don't see a thing. Your eyes don't see a thing. And you have people who are, I was going to say blind, but they develop a different way of seeing. Which is not dependent upon the eye retina and pupil of the physical fleshy instrument, you see. So when you're dealing with a time that is separated, and when you're dealing with the separation, is belief that you're separate from source. You as a materialized being is separate from spirit. This is what that era was about all that time 2,000 years ago, which we're coming out of it now. And this awakening is the spirit within you waking up to itself. Hence why it's called spiritual awakening. Is the awakening of the spirit being called your soul, which is waking up. But in this time, you also have, if you got the authentic, there's some counterfeit trying to, play itself very close to the authentic, but it's just not cutting the biscuit because it ain't real. So you have a huge distortion also around the spiritual awakening taking place. You have corporations that has taken on all of this spiritual talk and stuff. Why do I say corporations? Well, think about it. You got the law of attraction. And a lot of people know about this because corporations came together to make it public. As if to say, and they called it the secret, which is showing you that, it's presuming you never knew nothing about this. And this is why it's a secret. And they're going to be revealing this secret to you. Now, it's called the law of attraction. And from 2006, it's become people's bedside. That's replaced the Bible. That's their Bible. The law of attraction. And they don't even realize that a law of attraction is only one little itty-bitty, little intsy-bitsy aspect of a greater law, greater principle, greater aspect, a greater law of a law of existence. And actually its foundation of what the law of attraction operates on is the law of vibration, which are one of the three immutable, unchanging, indestructible principle, or indestructible principle. So anyway, corporations have, it's now turned as spiritual. Everybody wants to be spiritual. And here's the funny thing. If you want to be spiritual, that means you're definitely caught up in your egoic mind. Because you are spirit. That's the reason why you're here. But I want to be spiritual, it would be more like you want to free yourself from the mind that's not enabling you to perceive the true nature of yourself. That would be better to say. But a lot of us want to be more this and more that, and got to work on this and work on that. And I'm not saying working on yourself doesn't have its merits. Of course it is, because there's like I said some strongs ago, I said, look, spiritual progress is like detoxification. So, if you want pure, clean water in your cup, you need to clean out the sediment that was in it before. You see, got to clean it out. Otherwise, that water is going to get polluted with some impure stuff, you see, that has now sedimented inside your cup. And if you want to receive that fresh water, you got to prepare yourself, like preparing a cup to be clean by washing it out. So it's now ready to receive as a clear conduit or vessel to hold that pure, clean water. Pure, clean water in this respect is pure life force energy of consciousness, of higher consciousness beyond the material mind. So when you got people who are just very material thinking, they will take the spirituality and that information, and that still gets played along material mind. You're looking, a lot of people jump to the law of attraction not to understand the cosmic laws of existence and to get into more of a holistic way of thinking, to relate to themselves in more of a holistic way. They're attracted to it, law of attraction, because it can get them more of the material things that they still materially want to pursue, because that's who they still believe themselves to be. And this intellectual mind, this counterfeit identity, deceives you to make you think you're getting more spiritual because you're into things like law of attraction and, you know, spirituality, you know, these words. And this is how corporations are trying to hijack this stellar activation cycle that we're in. It cannot be stopped, but you can manipulate how and to what folk wake up to. You see? So you got yoga all over the place. Yoga. Yogity, yogity, yoga. Everybody, how you all got teacher? And when you have certain people who are dealing with yoga, various Nubians who are dealing with yoga in the 70s and stuff, your own folk were looking at you like, what the heck are you doing, man? You know, you got pioneers amongst different ethnicities who've known about yoga for decades. Decades. Yeah, they are now in their, either moving in their 70s and 80s now. These individuals knew about yoga a long time. But them time when they were dealing with yoga, folk weren't interested in that. But all of a sudden, woo, man, you got yoga all over the place. Yoga's on the mind. You see, because it's being westernized into our business, into corporations, yeah? People don't realize that they're being initiated on a mass level for something other than what the true awakening is. Yeah. You need to be observant, you see, and discerning, because you're being initiated into something that ain't nothing to do with the awakening at all, of who you truly is to yourself, is to get the collective consciousness to focus their energy on a pseudo version of what this spiritual awakening is. You got people embracing, oh, spirituality out of escapism. I hate this world. This world is so, you know, I want to get away from it. Yeah. Spirituality is being used as an escapism from dealing with yourself. Waking up to who you are and doing the necessary work to realize yourself. You know? It's like we just want the red pill, blue pill type of thing. So you can see when I'm, from the way I am talking about the spiritual awakening, you know that it is more than how it is being perceived to be. You got holy people doing yoga, and I'm not saying that, hey, yo, you're doing yoga, you're not, you know, you're not tuning in with yourself. But the thing is this. Many of us don't want to deal with principles. We just want to deal with opinions. And we miss the principle. So a lot of people in the end of the day are not dealing with the principle, they're just dealing with their opinion. So what happens with an opinion is that, as a wise elder said one time to me, principles are few, opinions are many, principles are few. Opinions often change, but principles never do. So you have people dealing with changing opinions or conflicting opinions, but they have no sight on the principle. And it's the principle you need to be dealing with. The principle, you see? Because the principle is aligned, the principle of truth. The principle. You see, you can have people sitting around a table and they're all looking at the same center. They're aware of the same center point at the center of that table, yet there's many people sitting around that table. But they all can perceive the same center of the same table they're all sitting around. Right there is the principle. That dot, that 0 point, that core, that source point. But each one sitting around the table is going to see that same point from a different point of view. It doesn't change that the center point doesn't exist. It doesn't change it at all. Everyone can see that there is the center, that point, that center of the table they're all sitting around. But they're all going to see it from their own point of view, their different point of view. Now, that different point of view is going to be different based upon where you're seated, where you're situated. But each point of view expands that one point of view that each one is homed into. So different points of view aligned with the one principle expands everyone's consciousness sitting around the table. It doesn't have to negate your point of view, because we all know it doesn't have to negate your individual point of view, because everyone sitting around the table are very clear about what they're focusing on. Everybody can see that there is that center, that core, that point in the middle of the round table. You see how it goes? And after when you make your rounds, you hear all of that? Terms, the rounds, going through the rounds, you're going to get different points of view, which actually, by the time it comes back to you, your awareness of the same thing is going to be even more expanded. Because you're dealing with the principle. But when you're dealing with opinions, you're not dealing with the principle. You're just dealing with your opinion. Your opinionated idea that's being programmed in your mind to perceive something that you don't even sure what it is that you're really dealing with. You see? So we'll get into a whole heap of arguments based upon the different opinions without any sight of the principle. We're just talking about opinions rather than the principle, which is the life principle. That's the principle, yeah. The life principle. Because as I said, you are a soul, and that soul has lived many lives. That soul has lived for many lives. And this is where the true waking up, what you're waking up to, this is the self. This is the self coming back online. And in the West, the soul is something very, very nebulous. It's, a whole heap of concepts and stuff talked about it. And you got folk who really, it's very hard for them to grasp about soul. Does the soul exist? What is the soul? You see, they need some tangibleness because they're material minded. They're material thinkers. And material thinkers, based on his 2,000 years of deception and faith and belief and separation, perceive spirit to be separate from matter and themselves to be separate from the source of all life. So the soul now becomes this big enigma. And yet the West, as I said, through corporations, we use there a lot of spiritual teachings that come from the West, from the East. And in ancient times, in the Western hemisphere of the world, there was spiritual knowledge. There was spiritual knowledge. It was all over the place. But there then became the time where things were now being interfered with. The inhabitants of the planet was being interfered with, and therefore various knowledge had to be wiped out or suppressed in order for the controllers to be able to have the control that they've been dealing with and doing stuff for the last 2,000 plus years. So soul, this big thing. So now that we're dealing with the age of Aquarius, this intuitive knowledge is coming online for a long time, but it's flowing through many of the souls incarnated through the end of through the middle of the 60s to now, in groups, okay, soul groups coming in with an internal activation, or more of an inner receptivity to the truth. We intuitively come in here knowing that the things that we've been taught from the Western standard and what's still being influenced from the last 2,000 years, the lies and the deceptions, we knew intuitively that stuff ain't true. So we never absorbed and took all that stuff on. Hook, line, and sinker like maybe our parents did, okay? You can't get certain folk out of church, and that's cool. It's for them. That's where they are. And sometimes some people can be in church, but it doesn't mean that they only deal with the limited interpretation they get from their pastor or preacher man. They may know more, but not necessarily let others in onto this more knowing that they have. But eventually they'll realize that they'll have to move on in order to expand and move on beyond the confinements, okay, of those limited thinking, those beliefs, because it will interfere with the expansion of the nature of the Creator that you need to step into, because many people's idea of what they call God is very depressing, and it makes them believe that God is behind everything that has happened on this planet. And if there was a God, why is he allowing things to be the way they are on this place? And some people even vex with God. You know what I mean? And then you have those who fear God and will even justify this fear. It's like, wow. Anyway, and not realize that the way you perceive the nature of your source of being is going to be the way you perceive yourself at the deep unconscious, subconscious level of you. And if you hold on to a separative idea, this whole deception, as I said, of the last 2,000 years, you're going to be perceiving through your mind and projecting your fears into the world. And you're just going to be seeing the projections of the imperfections of how you perceive yourself as not being complete. And through those imperfections, you're going to project your destructive intendants or tendencies upon one another. You see? You even have people who talk about this human consciousness and say, well, I'm only human. Don't blame me. So what does that mean, yo? If you are only human and none of us is perfect, which means that you're not complete. Hence why the whole indoctrination that keeps people believing that their other half that completes them, that will make them feel whole, is out there somewhere. That's your egoic, conditioned mind talking to you. And if you are incomplete, no one's perfect. You see how this is the ego. This is the Western. This is a very Westernized way of thinking, okay? And I'm not apologizing to say it's Western. I'm not saying that Eastern don't have their imbalances. But this whole idea from the Western perspective that no one is perfect. that is a material mind talking from a very separative perspective or perception of themselves in the world. Hence you see the impact and the influence of that perception on the world you'll see today. You don't see your interconnection with nature and source of all life. Because if you did, there wouldn't be all this so much pollution and no consideration of causation and effect from what is being done, you see. And then now trying to correct something after it's way late, like planting trees to repopulate the forest for all those trees that's been chopped down. I mean, really? You think planting a few trees is going to solve the problems? You're way too late. Took too long to wake up to realize the impact of your behavior, you see, and actions. Because causation is about action and reaction, you see. So this material mind makes it very difficult for a lot of Westerners and everyone else who is being conditioned in the Western way to understand the reality of the soul. Atma, that will be called in ancient, in Indian text, you know, the Ba in ancient Kemet, the Ruach in Hebrew, you know. And there is the spirit and the soul, yeah. The spirit is the perfect substance, yeah. The soul is the actual consciousness intelligence that creates out of the perfect substance the bodies and the vessels for its expression and experience, the universe, the galaxies, the suns, the stars, you know, all of creation, yeah. So this, what I'm saying about what is spiritual awakening, you know, I'm sure you may not even thought about it this way. Or a lot of us just take things based upon what we hear, you know, alone. Spiritual awakening. You know, what does that mean? What is this? What is this? Huh? Are you feeling into this intuitively? Because your intuition is what has to come online big now, you know. Your intuition, many of us, we're just born with that intuition, but we may not always have followed that intuition. And intuition is not the same as instinct. I keep hearing this type of stuff. Well, it's my instincts. Your instinct is not intuition. Your instincts is, you see, animals have instincts. And the animal aspect of man, so to speak, is, you know, that's your instinct, which is based on survival. To instinctively know what to do in order to survive. So when you're acting out of survival, you will start to do what you think is necessary to survive, even if you don't like that which you're now relying upon for your survival. Because its instinct is kicked in. And this is what is happening in various Western aspects when we're chatting about spirituality, because the way the structure of a society and a system has been running to move into the new energy, the Aquarius age, enough Western folk know that you cannot, they wouldn't, look man, you can't survive. You're not going to be able to survive with the way of thinking that's been running the show for so long. They ain't going to be able to survive. So it's like we better get spiritual real quick. You know, material thinkers, yeah, who denied the spirit, deny that which cannot be seen, need scientific validation with instruments in order to give some kind of verification to the mind that is in a tangible way, in some way, in order for them to accept, oh, such and such exists, that they can't see. Is hard for material minds to perceive what goes beyond the five senses as existing. It's hard for material minds to perceive that life can exist without a form. It's very hard for Western minds to be able to grasp without the scientific instruments. And yeah, they have their merit. At least they confirm things that ancients have said for a long time. But when you're dependent upon science to be an extension of your five senses, to validate what goes beyond your five senses, to exist before you can say, yeah, that's real, then you know you're in serious trouble there. Because you're going to have, if you depend upon science, you're going to have to wait for the next paper to come out, which may be not be for the next 10, 30 years or something, before you can say, oh, you see, science has proven that the soul is real. You know what I mean? Before you can actually acknowledge you got one. Do you see the limitations in that? So, what is spiritual awakening? Part 2. There is higher levels to this, but I'm laying foundation for you all to just actually contemplate this. Because this is real. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, accept it or not. Spiritual awakening is happening. But what is spiritual awakening? And as I said, from the Western point of view, the soul is like an enigma. Okay? It's not something you directly experience when it comes to the material thinkers. But, you know, and then there's those of us who are very intuitive. You see, in the West, it's like you can only learn to know anything from outside of yourself. If you said to somebody, well, I've been self-taught, what you talking about? You must have been taught by someone. You see. There must have been a person that showed you this and showed you that. But you see, being shown things or taught things from depending upon outside of you isn't the only way to know, isn't the only way to gain knowingness and knowledge. You got that which, you got those who fully know. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Greetings.
Greetings, beloved. Welcome.
Hey, me well, darling. Blessed to have you call in. Is that Sister Jadusha, right?
Definitely.
Yes, baby.
Definitely,
Ooh.
yeah.
See you tune in and yeah, man, you see me a flow like so, and you just call in right there, so. So, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
Yeah. I was washing the dishes. I've been tidying up and stuff, listening. You meant me had to put down the dishes. All suds are still on them. I had to grab my notepad. I had to start jotting down little things because I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but things started to come through, you know.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Let it flow through, and I'm glad you called in, and now I'm very excited to hear what you gonna say. What's flowed through you, you know, to add to this. That'd be beautiful.
Exactly. It's not from me. It definitely is just constant confirmation of what I have come to know.
Yes.
It's always been proven to me, and it's just so comforting.
Yeah.
It's comforting, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And what initially came through, because I got like 3 or 4 pages where I was scribbling, but they're small pages.
All
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Earlier you spoke about waking up, and then again later on you're like, waking up to what?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is about waking up to being aware, conscious that we are and dwell in consciousness. And then understanding what consciousness is, how it's composed, how does it come into being, and how does it work? Because ultimately that is who we are.
Yeah.
So to see how energy and light moves, works, flows, and goes, that is the number one key, because you're right. We're on these cycles, and now it's time to just, the influx of yoga, as you said, you know, people expressing a cry for change. We see that everything is just like a joke.
Yeah.
We see we've been mugged off, we've been lied to, we've been manipulated, television influence, schooling, everyone's homeschooling, people ain't vaccinating the children. People are waking up,
Yes.
but they have to wake up to what? Now their souls are searching for, like, what the heaven am I supposed to do now? You get, because it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this dream that we dwell in,
Mm-hmm.
that we chose to come. It's the only realm, as a human being, it's the only experience, right? Because when we transition and go back in the ethers, that's just a whole nother level. But in this one, the only one where you can tap into all dimensions and all realms to conceive it in your mind, if you get me.
Yes. Yes.
So that's why we come here.
Yes.
And our greatest wealth and our greatest work, motivation, inspiration, what we came here to do is to remember
Yes.
ourselves and to know ourselves, to recognize how this whole thing works and how to get the best out of it and to get as much wisdom as possible. And in order to clean up your vessel, like you said, to clean up the cup and to put the clean water in it, for you to attract a higher frequency of thought, a higher frequency of elementals, of consciousness, of light, of whatever you want to call it, God's favors. If you like to attract that, you have to be it.
Yeah.
You can attract the superficial means. The spell is real. Whatever you focus on, you can make money. Money could be your God. Clothes could be your God. Sex could be your God. Education could be your God. Gym could be your God. Anything. There's all sorts of clouds of energies, of spells out there to distract you from your divinity. Yeah, it's unlimited. It's boundless, and the expressions just reveal to us the complexity and the magnitude of the beauty. All this that we dwell in, what we call God, the void, the whatever. The reason why we say we dwell in abundance is because it only gives to us what we think, what we imagine, what we feel and know to be true. And as we've discussed before, it's very easy to be convinced that the past is the truth because we've experienced it. But we dare not appreciate the fact that we could look at something different in our minds and give birth to that. You understand? And part of our solution is recognizing, okay, we've been talking about the laws of attraction, we've been talking about the secret, talking about, the laws of the universe, and as we think, James Allen, Napoleon, Think and Grow Rich, we know the mind is powerful.
Yeah.
We know the being is powerful, but we do not understand how our being works. Yeah, we do not understand the flow, how consciousness moves, and what every particle of energy, every thought form, every breath form has its own soul to browse and scan.
Yes.
It is activated to do whatever it is ordered to do. And all the billions of people on the planet are contributing to this thing. The stars are a reflection of our nervous system and our meridians, and it's us. And when you're born, like you do the astrology and the astronomy, it is a reflection. Your birthday is just a tick in omniverse. Your unique tick, your unique ID, but it's still in the whole. So you'll have attributes of everything and everyone. And you'll see yourself in everything and everyone. And it's so undeniable that this school, this life, is about learning who and what we are, because it's everywhere you look when you know what you're looking for.
Yes.
And what we should be looking for is how you're vibrating, how you're feeling, what you're thinking about. How do those make you feel? What kind of changes would you like to see? Do you take accountability for your life? Are you looking at your life as your book? Because everything that you experience, not only is it part of the whole, it is a reflection of what's in you.
Absolutely.
And if
Absolutely.
you would like to see change, like you said, it starts with you. But
That's
the
right.
key, my brother,
Yes.
understanding how light works, energy, consciousness,
Yes.
and
Understanding. Yes.
and there is everything is in perfect order. Everything. So if there are hurdles, if there are deaths, if there are anything, it is a reflection of the quality of our thoughts, whether it
Yes.
be careless or careful.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Mm-hmm.
here, we have group destinies going on up in here.
Mm-hmm.
There, people, they have your thinking creates your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts are your investment in your future, as well as in your past. It's like, yo, the rabbit hole, how deep can it go?
Yeah.
But the key is it doesn't matter how deep it is. All you have to be concerned about is being a good person, being honest, being loving, smiling and being kind. Actually, without being paid, forget about what everyone else is doing. Be a beacon of light right now. Save your ass. Because, yeah, because in order to tune into a higher frequency of thought, you got to be activated to want to be of some kind, to be in harmony with yourself.
Yeah.
You want to be vitalized. You want to know yourself and how the omniverse works and how
That's right.
everything is correlated to me. Why would I want to understand that?
Well, and I know that's a rhetorical question with that what you said, but we can know. You can tell why a lot of people would be too afraid to understand that. You see, because of this belief in separation. But everything you've said, my sister, is on point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, the
Can I
the
just,
Go on. Go ahead. Quick.
I just wanted to say, in terms of wanting to change
Mm,
and not being able to,
mm,
when you understand how elemental these thought forms and breath forms
mm-hmm.
enter your being through your eyes, your mouth, your ears, your skin, into your consciousness. Yeah, so you can catch it. That's why you can be influenced and find yourself doing things you don't want to do. So in order to curb those things, you have to wisen up
Mm,
and make wiser and better choices for yourself.
yeah.
Because it's the only way home. You
Yeah.
have to really want it. If you don't,
Mm,
that's cool because like you said earlier, everybody's on their own page. But for those who are striving to understand and overstand and understand this whole thing,
mm-hmm.
because we're at the toe now of the situation here. We are just coming in to recognize ourselves.
Yeah.
But in order to activate, we have to clean up our act. Forget about the outside world and start creating a better you. And when you're talking about at the table and seeing the point in
Mm,
the center of the table,
mm-hmm.
you, me, everybody, like you said, has their own point of view, but you are the center of the universe. Wherever you stand on the planet, you
Yeah.
are the center.
Yeah. That's
Everybody
right.
has that.
That's the principle. That's right.
Yours.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing, and everybody holds equal amounts of access. It's whether you think so or not.
Yes.
And if you know that you don't think so, and if you say you feel that you're lying to yourself, you have to lie to yourself till it becomes the truth. And the more you lie to yourself, you will be directed and you will flow into situations, places, and things and books and epiphanies
Yeah.
born from and from without.
Yes. Yes.
If, and both are equally as beautiful, and both are equally as dangerous. So you have to pay attention. You are the boss of yourself, and you came here to better yourself, to acknowledge and come into awareness of who and what you are, and have reverence to that, and take care of it. It's a big deal, man.
Yeah.
It's a big. It is a big deal. I'm realizing, like, yo, it's a gift to know yourself out here, because so much emotional psychic attacks. The music is hypnotic. The television is hypnotic. The news, all of these different streams of information coming at us as soon as we step out the door. We're having judgments and opinions, busy in our mind, making all kinds of calculations.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's very important to be still, declutter the mind, keep what you want to nurture, let go of anything toxic, give. Understand everybody's going through what you're going through, whether they realize it or not. Every soul, and the soulless and soulful. Yes, there are entities out there that don't have activation. They have there are elementals that enjoy pain. So they'll come into somebody who is like run down or negative. They'll jump into a body and they'll express pain. They enjoy it. And if a person becomes convinced and keeps looking at that and moans about it and complains about it and thinks about it, it will stay. It will abide. So it's really recognizing how tenacious one has to be in one's mind. I know it works because I've done it.
Right. There you go. You see?
Yeah,
Proof is got
yeah,
to
I
be in
know
the
it
pudding,
works.
man. This is the thing. This is what the knowing
Yeah.
is. Yes.
When you apply what you know and you practice what you preach and teach everybody, because how your soul teaches yourself is listen to the advice you give to others. Listen to your own advice. Take your own advice and ensure that you are taking your own
True
advice.
thing. Truly. Yeah, man.
It's the key.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
the key. That's how the soul teaches itself
That's
through
right.
experiences for you to become enlightened, give good advice, and then you're to sit down, reflect on that, contemplate it for yourself.
Yes.
Real talk.
Absolutely. Real talk for true. Sister
Yeah.
Jadusha, I got my brother Carlex who reached into the
Um,
studio
my
and
apologies. Big up to the one called Carlex, man. I love you, bro.
can you hear him?
Yeah,
Him saying big up,
yeah, yeah,
sis?
yeah, yeah,
All right.
definitely. I didn't even realize the concept of time. I'm out.
No, it's all right. No apologies. I'm really glad you've called in and added that contribution because it is needed to be heard also from others. And someone like yourself, my dear, you know what I mean? A sister, saying what you're saying, it makes all the difference because it's like we're hearing a different voice coming from. You see what I loved you also what you were saying. There was a lot of things you were saying. That I was just, you notice I'm quiet and I'm allowing you to flow. The thing I want to refer to is how you said how the soul teaches itself. You see, the soul teaching its own self, the soul remembering more of its own self, and giving an example like listen to the advice you give others because that wisdom's coming deep from within, and if you reflect back on that, you'll see. Hey man, you live by what's coming through you as you're trying to share that with others. And this is how you will know the truth for your own self because you've tasted your own pudding, basically. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always appreciate you calling in, sister, and
Yeah, man, I give that inspiration, man, because you just open me up, and that's why I listen to just get opened up because you caused me to just go off. I didn't even look at the paper.
The notes you were writing down, you didn't need to. You're the other contributor. That's it for the soul to flow through and share
Yeah.
and contribute
I
to the whole.
have to just get back on air and just fill out some of my what's coming through
Yeah.
because it feels like it's time now.
Yeah.
Like, and I realize that stagnancy it's not in my own favor. I have to allow it to flow. I have to allow myself to be a vessel. And we have to be more confident to live our truth and be our true
True
expression.
thing.
It don't matter where you're at.
Yeah.
You're perfect as you are and on purpose. You just have to wake up to your on
To your own
purposeness.
purpose. Wake up to yourself. That's absolutely
Yeah.
waking to the spirit being that you are. And
And, and being honest in terms of how can I better myself and leave a better legacy, because you're going to come back and step into your legacy if you do not realize your immortality in this current lifetime. Because there are options.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Peace and yeah, blessings to Carlex. Yeah, and have a great show.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Jadusha. Carlex
All right.
saying him just him big you up still.
Yes, man. Yeah, yeah. All right.
All
Peace,
right.
beloved.
You
Big
too.
thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Bye bye. Yes, brothers. Yes, soul sisters and brothers. That was soul sister Jadusha, and yeah, well, you heard what she was saying. It's it's true what she's saying. And there's so much that I could have taken notes to kind of just reiterate on, but what she just said there near the end, the soul, how your soul teaches you. And before she called in, I was saying about how, we think we can only be taught from outside. That's how Western thinking have conditioned us to believe and look at stuff. But a lot of us come in here already knowing, and that intuitive knowledge is the knowledge of your soul. This higher expansive intelligence that is precognitive and tunes in, operates through feel. And we're living in a Western world that kind of puts down feelings, emotions, because again, as I said, we're coming out of this 2,000 years of separation from spirit and matter. This is what we've been taught. And this is what we've kind of, you can say, suffered under this delusion of a false perception of separation, which is behind all of the madness you see going on. People seeking outside to fulfill themselves because they feel that they do not possess or they lack what it is that they perceive is outside of them that they don't have within themselves. So, look, the time has reached that point, and yes, I started out kind of a bit, not exactly at 8, is how it is. But got my brother in the studio right here now, Brother Carlex, and he's going to continue the evening for you with some beautiful music and messages in the songs that will, with the rhythm as its vehicle, to trigger you, uplift you, help you tap into yourself, just like how this show is assisting, all those who are on the wavelength to also activate more of the flow of the life consciousness of themselves to come through, and be in the flow of their true self, to be here to do what they come here to do, or come here to be more accurately, because a lot of us get caught up in doing this, doing that. But what about being? Because being comes before doing, and it's it's your state of being that what you do emerges from that, you see? But we can get all caught up in do, and, do also can be shitting up yourself, you know what I mean? Too much doing, not enough being. And I would emphasize the being, where we can sit and tune in to ourselves, because the being is the essence of us. But look here, it's that moment come again. And yes, this was What is Spiritual Awakening, Part 2. And I'm going to continue with this next Tuesday, because spiritual awakening is a broad subject. And I'm going to pick up from where I've left off, and also, the various things that Sister Jadusha has said. See, these are the other aspects within it. When you begin to flow, all of these things you begin to realize. And it is about focusing inward to you. But as I said, there is a hijacking of this spiritual awakening, making the collective consciousness look outside and focus their energy to energize an idea that is being set up by the corporations that are organizing this, which is why It's very trendy now to be spiritual, so to speak. Very trendy to be a yoga teacher. Very trendy to talk about consciousness and spirituality. Folks like myself who used to be like, look upon like, where I talk about, when I mean, all 40 years, 30, 40 years ago. Because it's not something I've just come into. And, but I can say that during my lifetime, I've seen things that were rejected and refused come around to be accepted. You see? And this is what's going on. But the way things are being accepted, you got to understand there's the authentic awakening that always takes place from within you. And then you're going to have this, this counterfeit version, okay? Which is to focus collective consciousness on some ideas and concepts external to themselves and be energizing that. So we got to be aware, We got to be aware because this is about freedom. Freedom, freeing your soul from the confines of mind control. Okay? And your mind is a very powerful creative instrument, but you're not your mind. As I explained earlier, that you are consciousness, intelligence, life force, the father, mother, creative life, consciousness within you as your soul is what is expressing and activates through the mind, creates through the mind, because the mind is the substance all things being created out of. But the creator itself is the consciousness intelligence of your soul. And being of the same nature as the creator, then you also are creative and have the same power in, not at the same degree, but the same quality, you see? Because a drop of water can have the whole entire ocean within it, but it's not the ocean, if you get what I mean, in the quantity. Quality, yes, but the quantity is not going to necessarily be the same because the magnification is just huge, But we carry within ourselves, at the level of the quality, all of what the omnipotent possesses. And yeah, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up this evening. And yeah, there's food for thought. Yeah, there's a whole heap of things you've heard today, what I've said this evening and what Sister Jadusha has said for you to contemplate on. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to bid you all a good shadow hour, and you'll catch me next strong on Cosmic Roots Show for more about spiritual awakening and what is it, because I'm going to have part 3 on it, because not even 2 hours is enough to deal with the universal knowledge, y'all, that resides within us. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Brother Carlex say, of course it's not. Right. So, yeah. So, I'm going to tune out. Firstly, think I will hit you the outro and make way for Brother Carlex. So, you take good care, y'all, and catch you on the flip side, people. Wow, wow, wow,